Today I figured I could come out and do some chronographing of a pistol that I've chronographed before, but I'm going to try some new ammo today. I do not believe you've seen this firearm on the channel before, but here's an introduction to it. So this is a Northern Rockies Armory 223 1911. If you've never seen a gun like this before, it's probably because you've never come across one. They're quite rare. There is a gentleman that I worked with a number of years back, LC Sheline, I believe his name is pronounced. He manufactures these conversions to put onto 1911 lowers, and it converts them into single shot pistols. So the magnum opus, which I've referenced and you've probably seen some slow motion destructive footage with in the past, is actually a completely custom one-off gun that LC and myself work together to bring to life. I'll probably have that in a later video, but for right now we're going to be talking about the 223 version of this 1911. So in this video I wanted to chronograph a couple of types of 223 in 5.56. I have shot all of this ammo except the 55 grain. So I've actually chronographed these two rounds in the past, but I don't believe I ever caught footage of it. It was just something I wrote down on paper. So this would be a good video for reference of anyone wondering what kind of velocities you can expect out of a 11.5-inch pistol barrel. I think it's 11 3/4. That is measured from the back of the breech to the front of the barrel. But of course, the cartridge itself takes up some of that barrel space. So if you have like a revolver, the barrel is measured from the forcing cone to the crown at the end of the muzzle. But if you have a bolt action rifle, an AR, a semi-auto, anything that's just a smooth barrel that has no cylinder gap, they measure from the back face of the breech, which is kind of weird because technically your barrel is a lot more forward than you actually think. Like this cartridge here starts at this point and the barrel is really only about right here. So even though it counts from the very back, you're not getting that full length. So that would be approximately 10.5 inches. So 10.5 inches is the realistic length of the barrel for actually developing muzzle energy and burning powder. So I've shot 223 in the past and it develops more velocity than I actually expected. When I shot M855 out of it, I got more velocity with a heavier bullet because it is of higher pressure. The 5.56 millimeter NATO ammo tends to be more powerful than 223. However, I do not suggest, and by do not suggest I mean you cannot realistically fire this in a 10.5-inch barrel with this twist rate of barrel, meaning that the twist rate in the barrel from one end to the other is how quickly the bullet spins up. I would tell you what the twist rate is, but I'm not actually sure. I would have to look through some of the documentation on this conversion if it actually says what the twist rate is, but it is not fast enough to stabilize the 62 grain bullet in the M855. It is fast enough to stabilize the 223's 55 grain bullet. So today I'm going to see if it will still stabilize accurately the 55 grain bullet in the 5.56 millimeter NATO variant. And I also want to see what the velocities are. They should be quite high. I haven't chronographed that yet, so it should be interesting. All right, what else? I guess while this gun is on screen, I'll show you how it works, since there's, I think, only 2 examples of Northern Rockies Armory conversion 1911s on all of YouTube being shot, and none of them I don't think really shows you close up how they work. Maybe one of them does. It's been years since I've looked. I don't believe either of them were 223s. So how this gun works is you have this lever on the side, you cock the hammer back 1 click, then you pull up on this lever and you kind of shimmy it, and that's the block there. As you can see, it slides up. It's got these grooves to keep it from going anywhere when it fires. This block then tips forward. The cartridge is then pushed in, which is a little challenging getting it over the hammer, but it can be done. The extractor is located, let me see if I can get that on camera, is located right here and is actually actuated by a lever here. You don't need a magazine because, of course, this is single shot. So here, I'll flip this over. So this is the extractor. It's got a little lever here. So See that? And it like pushes against the back of the mag well. So you push this lever and it slides out the cartridge, at least in principle. Sometimes it catches. It's not all the time, but I keep a ramrod just in case. This is, of course, a target shooting pistol. It's not for self-defense or anything like that. So if it doesn't want to extract on the first try, it's not normally the end of the world. So yeah, you just close it back up. Sorry if this is out of frame at any point. Normally I'm used to holding the camera, but I have it on a tripod today. So you push that down, it just clicks into place. It's got little ball dedents. And then you would cock your hammer back, and the integrated safety on 1911 is still functional. Actually, I believe the safety is too. Everything from the 1911 lower still works, minus the ability to fire more than one shot at a time. So yeah, all these guns came with a rail in the top, and they actually came with 4 grips, but I had a 4-grip delete on this, so it looks a little cooler in my opinion, at least. With these shorter barrels, it kind of just comes off as this pretty sick high-powered pistol. The grips I got on eBay, I think they're not rosewood. I can't remember what they're called. I'll probably put it in text in the bottom of this video. The 1911 is actually is this the Irving Johnson, or is this the... this is the one that was made in Turkey. It's just a cheap 1911 bottom. It means the trigger pull is kind of not so great, but what I really wanted was a blued steel lower, because a lot of 1911s come with aluminum lowers, and I like the extra weight. It just makes the whole gun feel extremely hefty. This gun comes in at over 5 pounds, which is pretty crazy. It has almost no recoil because of the weight. I mean, it weighs as much as an entire AR, and it's a pistol. All right, I'm going to move the camera back, and we'll see what it does over the chrono. Oh, did I? Oh yeah, I did mention that the 855 tumbles, and I actually have video evidence of that. Here, I'll just move the camera up and you can see it. It's right there. You can see that little tumbled on the bottom left corner. That's one of those bullets tumbling, and that's only at about 35 feet. The velocity was 2464, 223 Remington PMC Bronze, out of a 10.5-inch barrel measured from the grooves of the rifling, and 11 3/4 measured from the back face of the whole barrel assembly. The rated velocity is 2,900 feet per second, but of course this is a very short barrel, so you're going to get less. Velocity from the PMC X-tac 5.56 millimeter was 2820 feet per second. Boxless 3120, but of course pistol length barrel, so it's going to be shorter. But as you can see, that was a noticeable increase in velocity from the 223. Next, we're going to shoot a group at 40 feet. That's just the maximum length of my range. From my normal location, which is right about there, that's about 35 feet. I'd have to measure. We may be more like 47, but we're not quite 50 feet away from that target. Oh, that's annoying. Here I am trying to give you guys a cool first-person shooting experience, and my accuracy was completely garbage because I'm trying to hold it around the camera, and I got a misfire. Hammer drop. Gun did not go bang, so I'm going to give it a second or 30, and then I'm going to open it up. That is an extremely light primer strike. As much as I hate to admit it, these guns are very cool, these conversions, but they do tend to, every once in a while, throw a very light primer strike as the one you're seeing here. I'm going to try and hit this again on the opposite side. That time it went bang. I shot just low. I'm actually surprised it got that close to the bullseye, considering I am aiming through a camera. Here's what a 3-shot group looks like when you're aiming through the screen of a smartphone. I'm actually surprised I got a bullseye almost. It clipped the edge there. And remember, there's some delay between the camera and the screen, so yeah, it's a lot more challenging than you think, especially since you got to bow-legged your arms around the screen to shoot. I can try this group without shooting through the camera. I'm sure it'd be 10 times better, but I was mostly looking to see if the bullets were tumbling, and they do not look like they are, so that's great. Wanted to film 2 tips if you just so happen to have one of these guns, for the 20 of you out there watching YouTube live today and know what these guns are. Some tips to make these more reliable. If you are extracting the brass, do not push from the lever at the bottom. Like, see this piece of steel right here? This is fired. I'm making sure it's in a safe direction. So see this bar right here? Don't push from that. Push from this. For whatever reason, if you push from the higher end part, which is where you're not supposed to push, sometimes the extractor slips past the brass. But as long as you push it from the lever where you're supposed to, here, I'll do it right now. Wrong direction. See that? The brass comes out as intended. And you grab it with your fingers, and you let the extractor go by, and you have your brass. The next note is, the light primer heads seem to almost always be because if this block is not seated properly. So when you load this and you push it down with the cartridge, with the chamber empty, it's flush on the top, but when you have a cartridge in there, it will stand a little proud. You're going to want to push very hard and get it all the way as flat as you can. If it's a little proud, that's almost always when the primer strikes are light. And I think it's because you end up with a bit of a gap, and thus the striker doesn't move as far, or it moves over what is intended to move and kind of runs out of power by the time it hits the back of the case.